Henry Babsteyer, the attorney. Henry Babsteyer, the politician. Henry Babsteyer, the family man. Henry Babsteyer, the community man. Henry Babsteyer, the regional and international man. Sponsored by TGCell and hosted by Prince Wadix. And will be live on Q95 FM Facebook page. Henry Babsteyer, the Dominica man, will be on Creole Heartbeat this Friday, April 12th on the big station Q95 FM from 11 a.m. Creole Heartbeat, a front row seat into the culture of Dominica.
Yes, Prince
Dominica's International Creole Cultural Magazine presents Creole Heartbeat Hour on QFM, the big station, this and every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Interviews, music, fun, and excitement. An informative and educational hour. An upfront and personal look at the lives of artists, musicians, entertainers, cultural professionals, and the movers and shakers in the cultural industry. A front row seat into the Creole cultural, traditional, and contemporary spinal cord. A microscopic Creole cultural analysis, highlighting achievements and triumphs, realizing dreams and goals, and showcasing the journey to excellence. Delving beneath the surface of Creole cultural history, a report on the character of the Creole culture. Dominica's International Creole Cultural Magazine presents Creole Heartbeat Hour on Q95, the big station, this and every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Be sure to tune in.
Yes, Sakai Malad, Prince Wadix, Prince Wadix, Prince Wadix, Prince Wadix. Papou a wete ba moun plen a yon manj a kite la vi. Aprisye sa yo ka fe kon yo a pa mi nou jodi. La te mouve vale bien non nou ka konsipe moun ebi. Pour nous connaître, pour meilleur pour nous tout ça bénéfice. For only wonders you done for us all, spreading the culture all over the world. For only good thing that you done for God, that's what it is.
Spécial bonjour pour tout le monde, tout le monde Dominique et aux Antilles. C'est un grand plaisir, messieurs, mesdames. C'est vendredi, thank God it's Friday. Et puis, nous là, messieurs, nous disons bienvenue à ce Creole Heartbeat. Messieurs, ça c'est une belle émission. Nous sommes tous les vendredis matin à ce grand station internationale. That's the big station QFM. Et nous là, messieurs, avec un grand invité. On a invité moun qui a joué sport, il était avocat aussi, politicien, et puis c'est un homme famille, tout ça, un homme qui fait un pile travail à différentes communautés à Dominique. Et c'est un homme qui est régional, un homme qui est international, et puis nous très contents pour nous, là avec nous aujourd'hui là. And I just want to say good morning to you wherever you are listening to the voice of the big station, Q95 FM. Welcome to another Creole Heartbeat program. And we have a special guest in our midst, real statesman, one who has done so much for Dominica. And it gives us great pleasure to welcome in the studios of the big station, Q95, Henry Babs Dyer. Good morning to you, sir, Henry Babs Dyer.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. Let me start off by saying that when I see you and when you invited me here, I saw Ferdinand Frampton.
Wow.
And I say so because Ferdinand for years has been asking me to come on the program. And I kept putting it off. And on Christmas Eve last year, we met at HHP Church, close to her place. And she said to me, Mr. Dyer, what about? I said, I give you my deal. In 2024. I will be with you.
Wow.
She says, oh my God.
Wow.
Thank you. So when I got the invitation I remember Felina.
Yeah.
Because the day after the day before she died, there was a special court sitting for the retired appeals judge Ola May. And that was the last time I spoke at the High Court in Rose. And the news had just come that Ferdinand had passed. And I said, oh my God, during my address at the court. And I said, I will always remember Ferdinand because she stood out as one of the best journalists Dominica have seen. Very honest and a woman of integrity. I said, hats off to her.
So what we will do, we will dedicate
I would
program
to
today
Ferdinand
to the memory of Ferdinand, because
Because-
I myself worked with Ferdinand.
because I think that she was influential in I accepting your invitation.
Okay. So what we will do, we will actually dedicate our program here today.
Yeah.
And we are hoping also to have a part two. Not next week, but then the following week.
Yeah.
So we'll have a part two because this is a colorful resume. Sportsman, attorney, politician, family man, community man, regional, local, regional, and international man. But as far as you can recall, Mr. Dyer, tell us who is Henry Babs Dyer.
Well, in a nutshell, I would say Henry Babs Dyer is a grassroots man, born in the middle of Roseau. We call it the Four Corners, from very humble parentage. And I remember those days when I was growing up there. You know, you always have a little hero in the area. And I remember Babs was in bracket the hero because everybody in the area, Babs, come and do this for me. Babs, come and do this. Old, young.
Where you got that name, Babs?
Well, I got it from my mother. You know, my mother was, very humble, and you know, my mother had 5 children, 2 boys, 3 girls. I was the 4th of the 5, and she was what you call, the typical Caribbean woman, doing it as a father and a mother.
Absolutely.
And I remembered, when I was about 6 years, my mother used to wake me up right in the Graduate Street and says, Baba, come, get up. I had to get up, pick up in those days you had your bedding, you
Yes. DJ Shan wouldn't know about bedding. He wouldn't know. He raised up with his
And
bed.
then-
Bedding
then-
would be
but what
some
do you
of
think she
your
was doing? She was-
shits, and so you would
she-
sleep on the floor.
What do you think she was doing? She was getting me up because I was a little boy there. My brother had gone to help her
Yeah.
in the bakery at the next door. So I would put my bed in and sleep, And I grew up even, at going to school, I grew up baking a half bag of flour,
Wow.
and kneading and going to sell the bread in the morning before I go to school,
Wow.
Even
when you went to high school.
when I went to high school, when I went to high school, I actually did carrying food. Food. I used to sell the bread, but carrying food because my mother's a very good cook, and she cooked for policemen and whatnot.
Okay.
So I had to carry the food to them when she cooked it, and go and collect the things and whatnot. So I say in closing, this is one of the greatest women that Dominica has produced. My mother, they call her Marvins.
Marvins.
Marvins was the
Marvins.
popular name.
All right. And you're talking about Four Corners. That is just the area where I think Payless is now. It used to be
we
the
live
Muslim store.
right on the other side.
Where Gashets have the building.
Not Gashat, on the other side. You know where the the barber shop is there.
Yes, around that area. There.
Well, the house before the barber shop.
Barber shop.
We lived in there.
Okay. Yes, that's a four
And the
corners.
bakery was where opposite there.
Where Marie Deschausset used to be.
Low down Marie Deschausset.
Deschausset, yeah.
And then there was another bakery there, the pipe, and they had a bakery there.
The bakery there.
So I grew up, you know.
You grew up as a baker.
As a baker.
And
I only sell suki, so you know.
So you baked bread before suki.
Yeah, well, I'm older than him. So.
But which high school you attended, Mr. Dyer?
School?
Yeah, which high school you attended?
Well, I went to grammar school.
Grammar school.
But I went to the Rosa Boys.
Rosa Boys School.
The Rosa Boys School was in Newtown.
Yeah.
The old school.
That's by the one by the Savannah there.
By the Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and then it was the Rosa Boys School. So fellas from Rosa, that's where we went to school. Mm-hmm. And the fellas from Newtown and Bath Road, all that area, they came to school in Point Michelle. Fellas
come to that same school.
Mm-hmm. And one of my good friends who coming from Point Michelle was Mali Peltier.
Mali, yes.
Yeah,
because Mali taxi service.
Taxi, and then the man at Macmillan John Baptist.
Oh, you went to school with Macmillan?
Oh my God, in heaven. Macmillan up to now.
That's Macmillan's gas station.
Gas station, man. I mean, oh man, oh Lord in heaven. This is a man, you know.
Yes.
We used to call him Macmillan Detet. Mm-hmm. And you know why we called him Macmillan Detet?
Why?
Because when he was at school, the Rosa Boys School, he used to carry the peel. The father looked at animals, sheep, and he used to carry it on his head to them.
Wow.
And we felt it had sunk his head. That is how we used to call him. Working hard, you know. I mean, you know, this is the thing that, you know, so many of us grew up working hard, you know, on manual, and then realized you had to work hard to achieve. It sometimes it hurts me when I see young fellas all around the place sitting down. I mean, you know, I mean, it's sad because a few years ago, when I was in government, I asked the government to establish a man's desk, and that was to get young boys, because the women's desks at the time had done so much for women. I felt the time had come for us to open a man's desk so that the young fellows could come in and give their name, and if there was any jobs and whatnot, they could, you know. And interestingly, you know, Jamaica heard it and they took it up.
Okay.
And St. Vincent too.
There's a special man's desk. I think we have the
bureau. We'll have a gender
affairs,
yeah,
which is not the same. Specifically for young boys,
you know,
and especially now. So,
oh my God!
And the reason why I say that, I mean, if you look on the various blocks,
all
over,
it's pathetic.
Yes, I know.
To see, I mean, women. That's why women have made so much more strides than men, because the young men are there. They just, I mean, you see them. Oh, they have a scissors cutting. Scissors.
Well, it's sort of semi-legal now, so you
know
what time it is.
I don't know, but I mean, I don't think it's too late. I think that we need to stand up, look at, and regroup, you know. But our young men, emphasis must be placed on all our children, but our young men, I believe, extra effort should be made.
And I agree with you wholesome, because you look at the major positions in Dominica, even the present cabinet, one third
women
are women, you know, and look at the major executive positions in Dominica, women.
And then the young girls, they look around, and if they want to make have a family, you know, it's a difficult thing for them.
Difficult thing for them to have a family. But even at the college, Mr. Dyer, even at the college, almost 90% of the students at the college are women.
Women, yes.
Which is, you know, some sort of concern.
Marginalized men like this.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think it's too late.
I know.
But I think it's a question of getting together and it's tribalism politics, in my view. It's
destroying us.
It's destroying us. I mean, it's destroying us. But let's get back to the football. You said this.
Yes.
Well, I played for cricket and football for them. And I remember the inter-school tournaments for the four islands. And in 1956, we were, every 2 years they had it. And I went to St. Vincent in 1956. And in the four islands, I was the youngest player.
Wow.
Because
how old were you
it was
then?
under 18.
Okay, and how old were you then?
I was 14, 15, going there. And I was among them because they knew you had to send the list of the age and so on. And that's where I made my mark, because I remember a little boy there. That picture, you see a little boy. And then I remember there was a match Dominica played in Grenada. And the Grenada had something like 12 runs for 3 wickets. And I was to bat at number 8. And the captain was Clem McIntyre. And he sent a message, he says, tell Babs to pad up.
What sort of batsman were you? What sort of batsman were you?
Tell Babs to pad up. Because we couldn't lose another wicket.
Yeah. So what were you?
I could bat and bowl,
Okay,
but I was batting number 8 at that time, I remember.
So but the tail end.
But 2 wickets down. And then I'm telling the fellas, because I'm not padded. So when the McIntyre said it, fellas came, everybody helped me. And I went up there, and the headmaster was Victor Archer. And I remember when I was going up, he says, you all die. Do your best. And I went in there, and there was a fast bowler fellow, Grants, man, and this fellow was bouncing them. And I said to the captain, we're not losing a wicket again today. And I stayed there. And we didn't lose a wicket. We came back the next day, and we had over the captain and myself, Mark McIntyre. He scored 75, and I scored something like 50 or 45 or 50. We had a partnership. And we won the match. Absolutely. We won the match because we had Ozzy Sims, who was an off-spin bowler. And he cleaned it. He cleaned the Grenadians, man.
And you're talking about 1956.
56. And then in 1958, the tournament was in Dominica. And it was a good thing. We won cricket in St. Vincent, but the island always wanted what they call the triple. So they wanted, it was 3 games, athletics, football, cricket. And I think Grenada is the only team that had won the 3 before. But we wanted to win the Dominica.
All 3 disciplines.
All 3. And then we had only 4 players in St. Vincent, because every 2 years that made the team, came back and played on the team. So it was Edison Joseph, Donnie Robinson, a fellow by the name of Bell, James Bell, who was SMA, and him, myself were the 4 fellows who played for the.
Is that the same James Bell, Pastor Bell? Wasn't that?
Not more. Bell was fellow from Girondin.
Girondin, okay.
He's in Germany now. I spoke to him a few years ago. And we won cricket. And athletics was the thing. We won athletics. We had a fellow, John Deschamps. I mean, a fast, the controller of customs.
Roddy Deschamps.
His father.
Oh, his father. Roddy Deschamps was also a sportsman. Also, he played football.
Well, that John Deschamps was that. Oh my God, football. Man! And then I cannot remember in that tournament. The highlights in the athletics was the 400 meters, the relay.
Yeah. And
there was John Deschamps, there was Edison Joseph, there was Geoffrey Harris.
That's a lawyer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there was the fellow Laville. He represented Africa for the javelin. Something. And these fellows, man, I mean, we cropped the athletics.
Athletics. And what about the football?
The football. So I mean, and big crowd, and so Haiti's football, and we had a good football team, and so it was at the fait accompli that we were going to get the triple. And when the football match started, there was, McIntyre, he is a center forward, and, I was on the. And within 20 minutes of play, McIntyre passed the ball, and Barnes was there, as usual. Goal.
So you were you were striking.
We started with 1-0 against Grenada. And then, boy, there was Grenada turned back, man. And there was a fellow Walker, very good. And the crowd, man, I can see in the crowd, man, the crowd. Oh my God, they never around it.
You're talking about it was at Windsor Park.
It was at Windsor Park. And boy, and especially the grammar school fellas who were retired and so on, and Dominic is going to get the triple, boy. And then, lo and behold, we lost the match 4-2.
4-2.
And it was a very sad thing.
What about senior football and cricket? What about
cricket,
senior?
When in cricket in the tournament, I played a lot of cricket. And then in that same inter-school tournament, we won the cricket, as I said. And then there was the outstanding partnership between Bell, that same James Bell, and myself. Bell scored 127. I scored 101.
Wow.
And we had a partnership of 200 and something. And we won cricket. But
what about at the senior level?
At the senior level, I that year I played I played for trials. A few of us played trials, and when we played the trials that year in '58, they picked the island team. Val Phillips was captain, and then at the end of the trial, they played Ireland against the rest. I played for the island. And three of us came in on that team for the rest. And there was a fellow Pascal from Portersville, and a fellow Leroy Geese from St. Joseph, and myself. But Leroy Geese had gone to England. Pascal traveled. I didn't travel. I stayed back. 45, I didn't. And I think I had to see the exam. So I cricketing and sports was
we were way up in terms of sports.
Yeah, we were way up, man. And I'll tell you, even when I think when we had we call it the
we know what tournament we know that
no the Popham tournament.
Popham, yeah.
There was the revival of the Popham tournament, and it was in Dominica in 1960. Mm-hmm. And I played for Dominica. I haven't played even before that for Dominica. I was at school, the grammar school. Mm-hmm. But in the Popham tournament there, the revival of the Popham tournament, Grenada, we played the first match against Grenada. And we wanted to win Grenada. I mean, we had never won Grenada for a while. Grenada was always very good in sports too, Grenada. And then in that match, we beat Grenada 1-0. And yours truly scored the goal.
Scored the goal, wow.
I
heard you were very formidable.
I remember.
You remember those days?
I don't know.
Great memories.
Great memories, man. Like him talking about the cricket. When I scored the century in the Windsor Park, I mean, the fellas lifted me, and run around
the city.
I mean, you when you have crowds looking, yes. you feel good,
Yes. And you
I don't see this thing again. I don't think I see these things again.
The patriotism, the pride,
and it's a model for the young ones coming up, And at one time, I mean, we had 7 players on the Windward Island senior cricket.
In cricket,
yeah. And I remember at one time on football, we had the Blackburn Sports Club. I was captain at one time, and we had 7 members of the Blackburn Sports Club going to St. Lucia on the Dominica football team.
Wow.
You understand? So, you had good fellas, man. We had what, Carlton Felix and you just name it. You know, what I mean, and you don't see these things again. I mean, what's to me is something that a government, or any government, should never let go. Concentrate on this. The netball for girls, and so on. And playing fields, you make sure that the playing fields, like the gardens, for instance. I am one who believe that even though we have the stadium for cricket, the gardens has always been, in my view, the mecca of cricket. And we should never, ever let that go. Just as the Lords in England would never let cricket out of Lords, never let Lords not be the main cricket ground. Just as Kensington Oval, the Barbadians would never let Kensington Oval not be the main. I think for the Botanical Gardens, cricket should always be the main. And I don't know if you know, I mean, the number of international teams that played in the gardens.
Yeah, man. I've always followed sports from a very young age. I remember guys like Clive Lloyd coming down.
And then
Kanai, Rowan Kanai.
But listen, I remember there were the English teams. They came down and they played in the gardens.
Yeah.
There was the New Zealand ambassador team came down and they played in the gardens. There was the Trinidad Merchant team from Trinidad Merchant. They played in the gardens. We saw,
but then Shell Shield, the Caribbean tournament.
Yes, but even although we had the Shell Shield, but we had international teams coming, and that's where they played.
Yes.
We didn't have the stadium, but we had the garden. And E.W. Swanson, one of the commentators, he brought down a team to play in the gardens. So I'm saying,
because of the history of the gardens.
Yes, and Eugenia had gotten Rex Ferrara to give a plan for cricket development in the gardens. I don't know. I mean, what happened down the line? But I believe that the cricket area in the gardens has always been the Cricket Association has always been in charge of that. The Cricket Association now, although the stadium, but they're not in charge of the stadium from my end. There's a committee, but the gardens still, in my view, remains that cricket, the responsibility of the Cricket Association. And there's no reason why the Cricket Association could not get the West Indies Cricket Board to assist in developing or modernizing cricket in the gardens. There's nothing wrong with having a modern cricket thing in the gardens and the stadium too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because several of the Caribbean islands now have three grounds.
Look, it hurts.
There's the Antigua Recreation Ground, there's the Viv Richards Ground, there's the Queen's Park over the Brian Lara Stadium.
But look at the T20.
Yeah.
When I understood that Dominica said they could not entertain the two matches
or the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was sad. But not only Dominica. I think Grenada said they could not entertain. But it's a once in a lifetime kind of situation, And if for instance the Gardens was really up to date in cricket, you know what kind of impact that would have, where you have matches in the so many teams, international teams, they would use the Gardens as a playing, having practice matches and whatnot and so on. So look, I just came from Barbados, and if you see what Barbados is doing for the T20. They're paving the roads and whatnot and so on. I understand from my subject to correction, I understand the government took about spending $55 million.
Yeah, so they actually reinstalling some new set of lights.
$59 million.
I read an article where they are doing some new lighting.
And don't forget, cricket is tourism is
well, sports tourism is big
is the thing in Barbados. So invest in that kind of money, they realize that they will make it back.
But Babs, we have to shift gears and move into what really motivated you to actually decide you wanted to be an attorney?
Well, boy, I always, I'm glad you asked that question. My, I was very close to my mother.
Go closer to the
Yeah,
mic, yeah.
I was very close to my mother.
Mhm.
And I remember as a little boy, and they told me to go bakery. And my mother went and she bought shingles from somebody to burn because it's oven in the wood. And where we were living in Greater Street, she packed the shingles outside the street so the people walk, everybody could see it. But the police came and they arrested my mother, saying that she had bought stolen goods.
Wow.
And I was a little boy, I remember. And then the magistrate, who was Ted Boyd, he lived in the same street, where um, um, you heard Macmillan bought that building on Greater Street. It was the Dr. Green's mother property. And but the Ted Boyd, who was the magistrate, he lived there. So when my mother was brought to the court, charged for stealing, that was a serious charge, receiving stolen goods,
Contraband.
contraband. And Eugenia Charles is a lawyer
Was Eugenia Charles was your mother's lawyer?
and defended my mother.
Wow.
And I was a little boy, I can remember that very well. And the magistrate, who was Ted Boyd, he was there. And Eugenia said, but look, if she knew, yes, but she didn't hide it. It was there. It was there, everybody passing in the street and seeing it there. And Ted Boyd said, I myself used to see it. And he dismissed the case.
Yes.
And that is why I was
Motivated.
and came and assisted Eugenia Child. One of the reasons. Because she had done this for my mother.
And you were forever grateful.
I was ever forgiving.
But then tell us about you, what year you actually became a lawyer. Because I know there's some history. Because I think you celebrated 50 years as a lawyer.
The first lawyers trained in the Caribbean. It was 50 years ago, and we had a reunion in Barbados.
Recently?
Yes, Easter weekend.
Easter weekend.
And I was one of them. There were 4 Dominicans. There was Justin Simon.
That's Justin Simon in Antigua.
There was Isaiah Thomas.
That's from St. Joseph, the late Isaiah Thomas. Yeah.
And there was Evelina Grell de Freitas.
Oh, de Freitas, yeah.
And myself. Now, de Freitas and myself, the Grell, we worked in the registry because I worked in the court system all my life. I was in the magistrate court, a clerk and chief clerk, and I moved up until even acting registrar before I went to study. So I had a passion for law, but I remember how my mother could have gone to prison and whatnot. And if you hadn't got a good lawyer or something of the sort, I think, and one of the things that I've always said in life is that you must never, ever forget where you come from. You must never.
That's a serious lesson and a message you send.
You must never, ever. And Dominicans who know me will realize that has been my policy.
And when you say that, because you came from humble beginnings, throughout your career, you made sure that you represented people.
Oh my God, that is why in politics you can jump. I represented Roseau North. Not that I couldn't, although I was from Roseau Central, but I stuck to representing Roseau North because I ran against PJ, And when I mean, when I came into politics, I resigned.
But then just before you get into the politics, prior to the law degree being in the University of the West Indies, where would people obtain their law degree?
Well, don't forget, I went to Canada. I spent some 7 years in Canada, and I went to university in Canada, Ryerson, in Canada. It was not a university then; it was status, but it has now. And it was technical. I did a program of business administration in Ryerson, and so from the Canada, I came back to Dominica.
But then other lawyers, I'm referring to other lawyers prior. Before you,
other
before your
lawyers.
time.
Well, before legal education came in the Caribbean, the lawyers went to England.
Or to England.
Or Canada. I think Eugenia Charles went to Canada and one or two other people. But they were trained in England.
What about people like Silma Dupini? And
Silma was in England. Geoffrey Harris.
England.
And I think these are the only two remaining lawyers that in those
from
days
English
before legal education in the Caribbean came about.
So you were in the first set.
Yeah,
in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
this is history. This is historic.
There were 200 and something of us there, and it was very touching when I was in Barbados because they unveiled a plaque with all the names
of the first set of students throughout the Caribbean.
And you go there, you'd see my name, you see Justin's name, and all the people, and even those that passed, because out of the 200 and odd lawyers, almost 56 of them passed. But the names would be there
because they were the pioneers.
They call us the trailblazers.
The trailblazers. I love that. So you are one of the trailblazers of the University of the West Indies law degree.
And it assisted me considerably because one of the things that they did in the training in the Caribbean, we had constitutional law, which was a compulsory subject up to now. Because don't forget, England doesn't have a written constitutions per se, like the American Constitution and whatnot. So they have in England what they call the Convention of the Constitution. So if you're in England or in politics and you did something wrong, you didn't. It was you knew you have to resign.
Yeah.
You didn't have to tell you.
Based on principles, based on ethics.
You didn't have to. But it happened recently in the COVID. Remember with Johnson, the Prime Minister of England?
Yes.
He went and he had a party at his home
during COVID.
Which was contrary to the, and he had to step down. But in the campaign.
What gives you the most satisfaction, Mr. Dyer, as a lawyer, as an attorney? What gives you the most satisfaction? Representing poor people?
Representing poor people. And up to now, I'll tell you something about this, Telford Georges, who was one of the greatest jurists in the Caribbean. He was a Dominican.
Yeah.
And his sister, Alfreda Georges, who I worked with in the public books. So one day, he came to Dominica, and Alfreda said to him, I want you to visit Babs Dyer's office. And then when he came in, my office was opposite Macmillan gas station. And when he came, then he came in and he met me and so on. And when he said, well, when you see the type of people and the people that will come in, he said to me, in a song, why don't you put a head legal clinic?
But then I mean,
it tells you, and that is, I can follow that up. That is why, as Attorney General, I insisted. I was one who helped and insisted establishment of legal aid in Dominica. I don't think it is doing what I expected it to have done, but I think it's there. It's there.
Because earlier on you said never forget where you came from. And because you came from that humble beginning, you make sure that those who are less fortunate than you
Yeah.
and would have found themselves in some form of
Yeah,
problems,
yeah.
that you would
I
represent
mean,
them.
and sometimes, you travel, as you say that, and many times, and I remember one day I was coming from um, St. Joseph, I think it was there. And there was a fellow there, he had a bar there, what's his name? They used to really used to have a big hat, I forgot his name. And I stopped there, three of us, we stopped there. And the fellow, I answered drink and so on. And there was a Rasta man there, the Rasta man. And so when we were about to go, he says, Mokepe, Mokepe. So, and he said, Garçon, ou pas ça ou fait pour moi, garçon. Ou pêcher pour aller l'argent. I couldn't, I mean, it was a goal. And I've had so many instances like this. So many instances like this. Only last week there, I'm walking, Saturday last week, I'm walking, going to the market, and there's a man with a stick, an old man. So he looked at me, and he says, he turned and he said, Ça c'est pas Diana? I said, yes. He said, only one. And he was telling me of a problem that he had with a child, and the mother in Guadeloupe, and he has the same surname with the mother himself. The mother had a name, let's say John, and his name also was John, and there was a problem because of the child and so on. And I said, and I stood up and I explained. I said, "But Benny,
have you ever had situations where some of the same unfortunate clients of yours would come to you, would have a case, and they don't have the resources, and you would still assist them?
Yes, on many occasions. On many occasions. I mean, right now I'm doing a case for a chap that wouldn't, all he did was pay the fees for the stamps and so on, especially with his e-portal and whatnot and so on. But I'm doing it because of his father. I told him, boy, your father and myself, we went to school together and whatnot, and I will help you. I've had lots of things. And that is why if my chambers, my wife, and they realize this, and you everybody. It reached a stage now where sometimes when I go about it, and fellas, because I'm not as active again and so on, and somebody say, who say marry? I said, Motel, so qui marry Madayana?
When you look at the legal system presently in comparison to, let's say, 50 years ago, what are some of your observations? And if you would like to, if there are any recommendations?
I believe there, and there are lots of you heard it recently. You heard the judge making some comments and whatnot and so on, and the backlogs and the question of young people. Again, they come back to the young people, boys and whatnot, and then prison on remands and whatnot and so on. And then you look at it. They said justice delayed is
justice denied.
Denied. And especially when young people are involved.
Is that an unfair scenario, especially for, a flaw? Is that a flaw in the legal situation?
I think, for instance, if you look at when I started practice and whatnot, there were very few lawyers. Now they're
an overload.
Well, I'm not overload. I don't think there's a thing I think how they put it. I'll get back to it. All right. But I believe they're not an overload of lawyers. I believe lawyers are not properly utilized.
Okay.
I think that is the problem. I mean, and the government, not only in Dominica, in the islands, I think they need, for instance, who go to the magistrate courts? 90% of the people who go to the magistrate courts are poor people.
Poor people.
On the people.
There's a song by Kassav. La loi toujours sérieux, like a juge malheureux. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
The law is always more serious when there are poor people.
And then there is and recently I heard the Prime Minister's made a mention of regionalizing the magistracy. I think recently, and I laughed, in a sense, because when I was Attorney General, that was one of the thing we did, the Attorney General, and we gave an assignment, I could call it, to Telford judges and Charles Maynard at the time, who had a degree in law, to come up with recommendations to regionalize the magistracy. And that was to bring the magistrates under the Supreme Court so that they could have the transferring of magistrates from one seat to the other. And it would show a little more, it would show more independence of the judiciary than the government controlling the magistrate, so to speak, or the administration of the magistracy is under the arm of the government.
But do you feel, Mr. Dyer, that there is some tampering or there isn't there's an unfair advantage?
Well, I mean, let's play the no man is perfect. But then we also pray every day, lead us not into temptation.
I like that. I love that. As we move, was that the foundation, your legal background into getting into politics? Because you assisted quite a bit of let's say the unfortunate people, the poorer people of society, the lower bracket of society. Was that what motivated you to enter into politics?
Well, as I said, one thing you must never ever forget where we come from, and it is. How should I put it? Patrick John was like this in the sense that he was representing the
ordinary person.
But I think to a certain extent, he allowed himself to be influenced by not the ordinary person. I think I might be wrong, but in my opinion, and that is where he might have gone astray, in my opinion, because when I came into politics, I ran against Patrick John.
That was what year?
That was in 1980.
Yes, that's just after
the uprising
and the 47-day strike and all that.
And always it always troubled me.
That's in Rosenau.
Yes,
for the Freedom Party.
And I'm speaking from my heart now. It always troubled me that even although there were difficulties among us, but when I saw what Patrick John was doing and whatnot, and the commitment that he had to this people, I had asked myself, but why Patrick and myself were not together doing this?
Same thing. Because you had the same principles. You stood for the ordinary person.
But and you look at, for instance, housing. If I should, housing. All governments, Leblanc, everybody, they made housing for people. They gave people housing. Patrick John did this. He had the Baffin State Housing Scheme.
And also Kinfield. I remember Kinfield.
Yes. But the people paid for it. They paid for the house.
They were low-income housing.
It was low income, but they paid for it. Mm-hmm. And then they got the title. They have the title in hand. And And when you have a title for property, the agent said you, man, you got to get a piece of the rock, you know. You got to have a piece of the rock. So when you have a title of thing, you have the piece of Dominic in your hands. And any government should objective should allow the people to have a piece of Dominica in their hands. So you leave this property for your children, you know. But that's how the housing thing went on. Eugenia did the same thing. And I remember when O.J. Serafin did the scheme in Bafa State East, South, you know. And I then was representing Bafa State. And when OJ lost the election and so on, the Freedom Party had to deal with this housing scheme. And then we came up with something saying that, well, the people would have to pay $570, I remember, $570 a month. I was representing the people. And I called a meeting as the representative of the people. And we had that meeting in Elmsall at the house of Hesketh Alexander, who was the Minister of Government. I remember that very well.
He was from the East.
He was from the East, but his brother, he had a house in Elmsall. And we held that meeting there, and the meeting was to decide how much we were going to charge the people for that house. The government said $500 and something dollars. And the people, and I was with it, they said, no, we cannot pay $500. And I came and they said, how much? They said, maybe it's 300, 3 plus, but not $500. And I could see that the people could not, because you're coming after, you know, I mean, a hurricane thing and so on. So when we held that meeting, I said, well, I'm here and we discussed it. I'm representing these people, and the people cannot pay $500. I have gone through, I've spoken to them. They can hear me. And they said, how much? I said, at least $370, not $500 a month. And then I remember telling the meeting, how the meeting ended. If we are not agreeing with my figure and you want to stick to your 500 and something, you can have my resignation.
Wow. That's how strong you were.
Well, yes. And
the time.
And they agreed with me.
And eventually they charged.
Yes.
But in 1980, what happened? You when you ran against Patrick John in 1980 for Rosenhoff, you won.
Yes,
you beat Patrick John.
I beat Patrick by over 1,000 votes.
Over 1,000 votes.
Yes, but then I realized that after when I'm glad you brought in this point, you know, because if you look at the history of the Hansads and whatnot. After I won Patrick John and then I started, there's no way you would see I said anything in Parliament against Patrick. And when I looked at...
Was he someone you respected?
We grew up together. And when I looked at the files at the ministry, you see, you don't just go and then think... You look, you search, and I saw what Patrick was trying to do in terms of poor people. He was up my sleeve. And do you know, I mean, in 1985 elections, I was on Patrick's platform in St. Joseph when he was...
Serious?
Yes. A lot of people don't know that.
As a Freedomite?
No, I had fallen out with Freedom and went as an independent candidate.
In Rosenhoff?
I was in Parliament as an independent candidate. Mm-hmm. And so then when the House was dissolved, mm-hmm. they formed opposition forces because they felt Eugenia, we had, in 1980, we did not have a leader of the opposition in 1980.
There was no leader of the opposition?
There was no, up to the whole of 1980, there was no leader of the opposition. Michael Douglas was there, with the Carib fellow. And there was Conrad Cyrus and General Amo as
Conrad Cyrus was from the East again.
East, and they joined together. So you had two. So you couldn't have a leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
And in a situation like that, under the Constitution, the president, he appoints or nominates the 4 senators. So Mr. Senior at that time, he nominated Anthony Joseph representing the Labor Union.
Yes, that's Dow. Anthony Frederick Joseph.
Yeah, yes. And Julius Timothy represented commercial sector. Alfred Henry
from Mao.
From Wesley represented the agricultural sector. And Bernie Keynes, who was standard design, represented the women. Dominica. But something happened when I moved as an independent.
What made you leave? We are running out of time because we'll have to come back for the part 2 on the 24th. Yeah. But how was your relationship with the late Dame Mary Jane?
Well, as I said, I respected the Dame.
Go closer to the mic. Yeah.
Sorry, I respected the Dame very much, and I gave you the reason why. What she did for my mother, and therefore I was committed, in a sense,
to be grateful
to help her. Yeah, but then that didn't prevent me from, at the time, holding my grounds, and especially in the situation when, in 1980, we had no leader of the opposition, and then I came in as a lawyer, trained in the Caribbean, where Constitution was one of the main subjects, and I felt that we should have a leader of the opposition. So when I went across, I told Michael Douglas, look, I am leaving the government side and I'm coming and I'm going
Were you a minister then at the government, on the government side?
I was the Minister of Communication.
Minister of Communication first. And you decided to leave the ministry?
Well, I know, because I was relieved from being a minister, but I would say that as a backbencher.
Okay.
But then, as a backbencher, I decided to go to the
because you were still the pal rep of the Roseau constituency.
You're right. So when I saw that, I said to Mike, boy, I'm going to make you. It troubled me that we don't have a leader of the opposition, and I'm going to give my support to you. So if I had said to Mike, I am giving you support, I don't want to be leader of the opposition because I was over there. But I want you to be leader of the. And Mike was very, his artery and he was good, and he was representing Dom Lab. Do you remember in 1980?
Dem Lab.
And don't forget,
Democratic Labour Party.
Two Labour
Party.
Parties.
There was the Dominica Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party.
And that, in my view, that is why the Labour Party lost the election in 1980.
Okay, we're going to follow up on the 24th from there. And I like what we are doing is bringing it into chronological order, into the history of what took place, during that time. And it is very important because I'm hearing some of this for the very first time. There isn't any literature available that you can go and read this up. And that's why I'm very happy, Mr. Dyer, we have the opportunity. And when we come back on the 24th, if we need to have a third part, we'll do it because we have to stop for the news major.
Okay. And I wanted to just end up with that thing there. I didn't want. We could.
No, but then we must stop for the news. What's the exact time?
They'll give me 3 minutes.
We go. Okay, our producer said we can go ahead. Yeah.
So I said. So when I went to Mike Mike Douglas, I said, I'm going to make you leader of the opposition. And he said, you sure? I said, yes. He said, okay. I discussed it with the president, the senior. And I said, it troubled me that we have not a leader of the opposition. And the senior told me, I am happy you're doing this. I said, well, by 11 o'clock in the day, I'm going to bring the letter to you. So I drafted the letter, brought it for Mike. Mike signed, I signed, and Matthew Joseph, the character, signed. So there were 3 against 2.
So you decided to form a coalition with Dem Lab
to get Mike as leader of the
instead of
opposition.
Amo and Conrad Cyrus.
That's right. That's right.
Mr. Dyer, but we, like I said, we must stop
Yeah.
because we have the news.
So, but the thing happened is, Matthew Joseph withdrew his signature.
As the Carib guy.
The Carib fellow. So we went back to the same
2-2.
position.
2-2. So interesting. But we'll get back to that.
We can follow it up.
Yes. And I like what we are doing is bringing that historical.
Yeah.
Because some of what I was alive then, but getting the chronological order of things. So we'll take it from there when we come back on the 24th. I really want to thank you for the opportunity. And once again, we did this in memory of Padina. So QFM, Creole Heartbeat, is doing this particular program with you, Mr. Dyer, in memory of the late Fredina Frampton. So we'll continue with Godsphere on the 24th with part 2, and if it's necessary, because we have to go for you as that family man, community man, regional, international man. If there's this need for a part 3, we'll go. But I want to thank you for coming here today. The News Major comes up next. Next week, we will have Reginald St. David Shillingford, and the following week we'll come back with Mr. Babs Dyer. So until next week, Prince Wadix, may God bless you. The News Major comes up next.